Today I wanted to be really vulnerable and share my experience with grief. And I want to make it very clear that grief does not mean that someone died. Grief just means it is a process of loss, and it's an experience where someone has lost either a person or even an experience, a memory. It doesn't have to be this concrete black and white thing. And for me, I just wanted to talk about the grief of my childhood. So I basically on Halloween was when my parents divorced. It was very sudden. It was very surprising. Definitely something that I couldn't predict. It wasn't like my parents fought or they've always been a good team. And I am and still was a very observant child. So it definitely wasn't like they kept secrets or anything like that. But yeah, it was just very all of a sudden. And I was 8 years old when this happened. And on Halloween I always mark that as the anniversary of when my life completely changed. And for anyone that experienced a divorce, no matter how old you are, it sucks, because that means your thoughts about relationships, your views on your parents, just divorce in general is a change. I'm pretty speechless how to describe it. It's just something that you experience. But I wanted to just share this grief and loss of my childhood, because when this happened when I was 8 years old, it was like all of a sudden I had this need to be responsible moving forward. I had to grow up really quickly. I felt like I had to take care of my mom, meaning, be her emotional support. I'm an only child, so felt like I had to take care of her, and then really just had to take care of myself. So right at age 8, it felt like everything else moving forward for the rest of my life, I have to be serious. I have to be perfect. I just made those decisions very early on. So right now, what I'm just experiencing is this grief of my childhood. I lost that innocence, that playfulness. I never got that back. And so it's just sad. It's a sad thing to think about, that because of the divorce and the decisions I made of how I wanted to handle the situation, it just felt like I could never be a kid again. And anytime, in school moving forward, even though I was in elementary school, but everything else just seemed dumb. It seemed like if anyone had problems, if any of the kids were joking and playing and whatever, I would just be like, grow up, mature. Like, I felt like an outcast because I didn't get it. I thought whatever they were experiencing wasn't bad enough, because clearly there's adult shit going on. And I just couldn't relate to that childhood essence anymore. So it was even harder to relate to my own peers, because I was like, oh, you don't know shit because your parents haven't been divorced yet, so you don't even know fucking pain. Like, I had that belief as an 8-year-old. But the thing is at 8 years old, I didn't have the language to articulate that. I could not communicate all what I'm saying right now in this episode of just how I felt alone and how I felt I had to mature very quickly, and it was all my decision. No one was, my mom or my dad wasn't like, okay, Paige, you need to grow up and you need to do blah, blah, blah. Like, no, they didn't do that. They did the best they could with the resources they had. And I don't hold any grudges. I don't have any regrets because that was my life. That's what happened. That was the decision that they made. And it made me who I am today. But there is still a part of me that looks back at that young 8-year-old self and I just want to give her a hug and tell her that it'll be okay. Everything will work out the way it's supposed to, and to just not have the weight of the world on my shoulders. So yeah, I just wanted to share very quickly with you my experience of grief and just the loss of that innocence and that childlike that I had. And it's just sad that it had to happen at such a young age and just the way that I responded. But really, I wouldn't have it any other way. This is who I am, and it made me into a strong person. It made me a resource for people who are going through divorce. Being a trained counselor and helping families, helping children and adolescents share my story, and give coping skills. So, I'm grateful that I went through it too, because I'm able to help, and hopefully my message and my experience can relate to others as well. So if you're going through any grief, whether that means someone passed away, or maybe you're thinking back at a time when maybe you were happy and things happened and now you're not happy anymore, or it could just even be a transition and you're grieving that transition, it's okay. And I want you to take the day off, take time for yourself, be alone, because, and I'm not saying like, don't reach out to people, don't, definitely have a support, have a community, but sometimes it's okay to just be alone with your emotions and your thoughts and just try to process that, because sometimes we use other people to distract us from the pain. And that's okay sometimes, but sometimes we also just need to sit in the shit. It doesn't feel good. It's not something that is amazing, but it is healing and it's a part of the growth. So if you could, in your own time, really have that awareness of what am I grieving? What has been a recent loss? How do I want to work through this? And know that this is making you the best version of yourself. And no matter what, this pain will pass. So if you need any resources for grief and loss, I know therapists in Colorado. I'm more than happy to chat with you on other resources at this time, but I just wanted to be a little vulnerable with you and share my experience of this divorce and that loss of that childhood. But here we are. I hope you have a beautiful day. Take care of yourself, take care of others, and I'll see you in the next episode.